Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay. Ho, 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 ho. Did the Kuhner man call it? Hell, did we call it Kuhner country, huh? How many callers, texters, emailers were saying, Jeff, you start doing just a little bit of investigating, you're going to see the kind of sweeping, blatant, grotesque welfare fraud here in the Commonwealth, the People's Republic of Massachusetts, as you have been seeing now in Minnesota. So, as many of you know, right now they have found $19 billion worth of welfare fraud committed, not exclusively, but predominantly within the Somali community, especially amongst Somali illegal aliens. And they think that's just the tip of the iceberg, that you're looking at even more than 19 billion, and that's just in one state alone, where they have used shell companies, scams to literally steal taxpayer money that was meant to go to daycare centers, home health to take care of the elderly or the invalid, as well as Medicaid, school lunch programs, you name it. Highway robbery, pure theft. Well, guess what? It's now coming to Massachusetts. And I want to give a big hat tip to the U.S. Attorney, Leah Foley. She, just a couple days ago, announced another high-profile arrest, and here in Boston. And so here is now what is happening. According now to the U.S. Attorney, they made an arrest of 4 individuals. One is a naturalized citizen from the Dominican Republic. The other is a green card holder. 2 others are illegal aliens. So there was a group of Dominicans and Venezuelans. 2 illegal, 2, I guess, legal. One is a green card holder. The other one is a naturalized citizen. They were using a restaurant in Leominster, okay, as the epicenter of a massive scheme. Now, what's different about Massachusetts is that it seems, at least on the surface, and we're just scratching the surface, it seems that here, unlike Minnesota, it was the daycares. That was the real, where the action was in terms of the fraud and the scamming and the stealing from taxpayer money. It seems, at least so far on the surface, it's SNAP, food stamps, SNAP EBT cards. That's where it seems a lot of the fraud is being emanating here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. 4 of these individuals were arrested. They were arrested for stealing over $1 million in SNAP EBT benefits. Apparently, they had stolen over 100 identities. These are, Americans like you and me, many who live not just in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. They live in New Jersey, they live in Florida, they live in Kentucky, they live in states all across the country, and they used their names and social security numbers fraudulently to collect food stamps and SNAP EBT cards. They would then go to, say, the local market basket, the local grocery store, or the local Stop and Shop with all of these SNAP EBT cards loaded, tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars worth each time, and they would buy stuff for this restaurant, El Primo, okay, in Leominster. And you're just asking yourself, how extensive and how widespread is this? They would go in and they bought everything. They bought chicken, they bought pork, they bought beef. I'm talking massive amounts of food, anything that they needed for the restaurant, you name it. So they stocked the restaurant with all of this food from the SNAP program and the SNAP EBT cards. So they're not paying anything for the food. And of course, they put it up on the menu. They get full profit. They then use the profit, line their pockets with it, or they send the money. Many of them were sending wire transactions to their family members in the old country, in Venezuela or in the Dominican Republic. In some cases, they weren't even buying the food. They just were selling the cards. They just sold it and just pocketed the cash. And again, put some in their pocket and then wired the rest to their family in Venezuela and in the Dominican Republic. Now, as far as this case is concerned, yes, there was fraud. Yes, it was a scam. Yes, it was a fraud ring, as Leah Foley, the U.S. attorney, said. They used stolen identities from multiple states, and it basically emanated here in Massachusetts. But what is also extremely important, and the media in this state is deliberately covering it up, and now has the attention of the White House, where the White House itself is now getting involved in this high-profile investigation and this high-profile prosecution and indictments of these four scammers, is that 2 years ago, last year? In June of 2024, to be exact, Rhode Island said there's something fishy going on with some of these residents in Massachusetts. They're using stolen identities, 117 of them, and they claim that they're living in 2 apartments in Providence, Rhode Island. How the hell do 117 people live in 2 small single-family apartments? It's obvious it's massive fraud. They're stealing money from the SNAP program, i.e. from taxpayers. They gave Hold It Heat Pump Healey. They gave Heat Pump a warning. They told Governor Healey there's massive fraud going on. We've got them. They're living in Rhode Island, or they're claiming residence in Rhode Island, but they've got a restaurant in Massachusetts. They also have separate residences in Massachusetts. You need to be aware of this. You need to prosecute this. Instead, Maura Healey deliberately turned a blind eye. She did nothing. She didn't notify the feds. She didn't launch a prosecution of her own. She didn't have it investigated. She did nothing. And if it wasn't for the U.S. attorney, and if it wasn't for the feds and the cooperation of authorities in Rhode Island, they would still be stealing our money. Now, on top of this, by the way, the White House now says they want an investigation of Maura Healey. What did she know and when did she know it? And I don't blame them. I absolutely don't blame them, because she clearly did know, and she tried to cover it up. She is covering up massive welfare fraud, just like Tim Waltz, just like Jacob Fry, just like Ilhan Omar in Minnesota. This arrest and this fraud scheme that's been exposed comes on the heels of another high-profile arrest by U.S. Attorney Leah Foley, by the feds, this time in December or whatever, over a month ago, of 2 Haitian nationals. And they stole $7 million from the SNAP program. $7 million and counting, whereby they, again, were using fake identities or false identities. They had stolen identities, and they were fraudulently getting all of these SNAP benefits or SNAP EBT cards and then selling them for cash and then wiring it to their friends or family members in Haiti. Now, it's at least 8 million, approaching 10 million. What Leah Foley is saying, what the White House is saying, what federal investigators are saying, is that this is just skimming the surface. It is the tip of the iceberg. This is just them taking a quick look, and they've already discovered millions and millions and millions of our taxpayer money is being stolen, defrauded right underneath our noses. They believe that we're talking about billions and billions of dollars just in food stamp, SNAP, EBT fraud. We're not even talking about Medicaid fraud or other forms of welfare fraud. Billions of dollars in Massachusetts of our taxpayer money. And I predicted this was going to happen. I said, you watch. All you've got to do is start to look underneath the surface. Start doing some basic investigations. And what you're going to find is that Massachusetts is now the new Minnesota. It is as corrupt, if not more corrupt here than in Minnesota. Why? Because when you have one party rule, one party Democrat rule. Very good dear friend of mine texted me while we were just off air now. And he said, Jeff, after hearing that opening monologue, my God, is it time for that audit? No, I agree. And now you know why the Democrats are stonewalling. Even though it passed, what is it, 73% support in November of 2024. Just open up the books, have an audit, look at where our taxpayer money is being spent in the state budget up on Beacon Hill and the state legislature. And it doesn't matter. Democrats, Republicans, independents, overwhelming support. They voted for the state audit, and Healey is blocking it. Andrea Campbell, the state attorney general, is blocking it. The House Speaker is blocking it. The Senate President is blocking it. It's obvious. It's obvious. There is massive, massive fraud in just the SNAP, the food stamp, the SNAP program alone. And we're looking at potentially now billions of dollars. 620 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, this is a scandal now that is bleeding. Maura Healey is bleeding. The White House now is getting involved. They sense a cover-up. They know the cover-up is here, and they know that they're looking at a potential amount of fraud that rivals anything we've seen in Minnesota, and we're now beginning to see already in California as we're getting some initial preliminary investigations. Now, let me just give you a little bit more of a background on what they uncovered, and then I want to open up the phone lines. 617-266-6868 is the number. So there was a fraud ring, as I mentioned, and this is the most recent one. 4 individuals were arrested. The ringleader is from the Dominican Republic. He's apparently a naturalized citizen. However, there were 2 illegal aliens as well. And they stole over 100 identities. So they had stolen identities from not just in Massachusetts and Rhode Island, but from Florida, New York, New Jersey, Kentucky, from all over the country, including, by the way, 6 juveniles. Okay, so they were even having like teenagers and putting them down and saying, by the way, from the same address or 2 addresses. So there were 2 apartments that they were claiming that all of these people lived. They're living in different states, but they're claiming they're living in these 2 apartments in Providence. And all of them are requesting massive amounts of SNAP and SNAP EBT cards. That's the one they really want. And so they were collecting all of these SNAP benefits. And then they were either buying food at these supermarkets to stock up inventory for their restaurant, if you can believe it. And then, just making full 100% profit on it. Or they were selling the food, or they were selling the actual cards for cash. And then they took some of the money, obviously, but they were also wiring the money to family and friends, especially family, both in the Dominican Republic and in Venezuela. Now, this is what Leah Foley said in in her when she announced the arrests. And so this is what Leah Foley said. Leah Foley said, and this is what's now tipped off the White House. Quote, she said that there was no referral from Massachusetts whatsoever, even though the governor had been tipped off. In fact, not once, but multiple times by authorities in Rhode Island that there were residents, citizens and residents in Massachusetts who were running a massive fraud scheme using apartments in Providence and stolen identities. And they were told, we're talking about potentially millions and millions of dollars in taxpayer money being stolen and fraudulently being abused, and that Maura Healey deliberately refused to do a thing. She refused to investigate. She refused to refer it to the feds. She refused to make any arrests. She sat on it. In fact, she tried to cover it up and pretend it wasn't happening. So this is what Foley said in her press conference several days ago. This on Tuesday, by the way. The state of Rhode Island picked up on the fraud in June of 2024. So that's nearly 2 years ago, when they identified SNAP EBT applications. To me, this is unbelievable. For 117 people, all of whom purported to be living in just 2 apartments in Providence. Rhode Island also discovered that many of the victims' identities also received SNAP benefits here in Massachusetts. And apparently the key ringleader she mentions was this individual, this thief, this crook, frankly, this scumbag, Raul Fernandez Vicioso, a naturalized citizen from the Dominican Republic, along with some of his other collaborators, 2 illegal aliens from Venezuela and a green card holder. She goes on to say they also used the stolen identities of 6 juveniles to secure SNAP EBT benefits in Rhode Island and in Massachusetts, spending tens of thousands of taxpayer dollars to purchase inventory for a restaurant in Massachusetts. Apparently it was called El Primo. That was in Leominster, owned by the lead defendant, and that would be this guy Vicioso. Now, this is on top of the $7 million in SNAP benefits that were stolen by just 2 Haitian nationals, and they were arrested about a month ago. The White House now has responded directly to the news of these schemes, these busted schemes. 617-266-6868. Okay, the White House now issued a statement saying that Governor Healey, Hold It Healey, Heat Pump Healey, as we like to call her, is putting and protecting fraudsters above the constituents and taxpayers of Massachusetts. And in particular, it's not just that clearly she tried to cover up the fraud that was just exposed and that was told to her in June of 2024. So she's known about it for years and deliberately turned a blind eye. And now we're seeing more and more of these fraud rings being busted, arrests being made, and more of them being uncovered. But it's much worse than that. The White House now says, look, we think Massachusetts is very much like Minnesota. In fact, we're positive of it. What we want to do, very simple, give the personal information on everyone who's supposedly getting EBT benefits, okay? Especially SNAP EBT benefits, okay? Food stamps, SNAP EBT, these cards, you go into the grocery stores and they load up the carts with food. We want to know how many of them are being sent to households, to certain individuals. Are they tied to stolen identities? In other words, how rampant is the fraud? And cooperate with the U.S. Department of Agriculture, because that's where the food stamp program comes from. It's the USDA, United States Department of Agriculture. Healey is deliberately stonewalling the feds. she doesn't want to hand over any of this personal information. And the reason is obvious. You hand over that personal information, and you're going to see, as the White House put it, a massive amount of waste, fraud, and abuse prevalent across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So all they're saying is, look, if you're running the program the way it's supposed to be run, and if you're saying that fraud is very minimal, as you claim, then you should have no problem with us having oversight and transparency. In other words, open up the books and let us look at your list of recipients, of SNAP EBT recipients. We have the personal names of the people involved, the beneficiaries, and we'll just see, is it above board? And she won't hand it over. And the reason why she won't hand it over, it's obvious, is because this is the proverbial tip of the iceberg. And she knows that. And this would wipe her out in the election. This would come up. This would be like Tim Walz. Tim Walz cannot run for a third term because of the Somali fraud scandal and his direct involvement in the fraud scandal. This now is what Healey is potentially staring at right now. Now, on top of this, last point. Couple lines are open, by the way, if you want to call. 617-266-6868. Here in Massachusetts, so you've got the arrests of this ring. You've got another $7 million fraud scheme, SNAP EBT, just by two Haitians. Okay, that was recent, like, what is it, a month ago. The state auditor's office, okay, Diane DiZoglio's office, has announced that their Bureau of Special Investigations, this is Massachusetts' own state auditors now, okay, the state auditor's office, they have identified $11,952,288 in public benefits fraud. Let's not quibble, okay, 11.9 million, 12 million, okay, just basically 12 million. They've identified $12 million in public benefits fraud. Take a guess. Take a guess. The largest amount came from where? Just take a guess. Yep. Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, i.e. SNAP, i.e. food stamps. And it wasn't even close. Most of the fraud that they found was from the SNAP EBT program. And a distant second was Mass Health. Okay, basically Medicaid, state Medicaid. So they found there's a lot of, they found over $1.3 million worth of fraud just in Mass Health. So here, you've got 1 million, 7 million, 12 million. That's 20 million. And we just started. You know, it's like coming into a house and you're saying, "Oh my God, Jeff, they're running a prostitution sex trafficking ring out of there." And you just opened the door. You just literally opened the door. And you've already found multiple crimes. He goes, we haven't even walked in yet. We just opened the door, and they just the hookers are falling out of the door. The prostitutes are falling out of the door. So what I'm saying is they've just started, and we're already at 20 million. Now, two questions, and I want to go to the phone lines. 617-266-6868 is the number. Number one, are you surprised? Not that there's fraud, but the extent of the fraud. How rampant the fraud is. I'm just curious, are you surprised? Furthermore, are you surprised now that we are seeing obstruction and stonewalling on the part of Maura Healey? Will not hand over any personal information on SNAP beneficiaries, playing stupid that she wasn't tipped off by Rhode Island when she clearly was tipped off. Are you surprised now that she is in desperate cover-up mode? have you personally known of or witnessed welfare fraud in Massachusetts? How rampant is it? How prevalent is it? And really the ultimate question, and the White House is smelling blood here, is Massachusetts now on the verge of becoming the new Minnesota? They want in. They want Scott Bessent. They want the USDA. They want to open up the books, because they're saying you open up the books, what you're going to find in Massachusetts is the billions and billions and billions of fraud and theft that we just spotted in Minnesota. And so I guess my question to you is, how deep does the rot go? And are we now potentially the new Minnesota? 617-266-6868. Matt in New Hampshire. You're going to kick us off, Matt. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Thanks for having me, pal. I only have a few minutes, so I'm going to talk real fast. Just to touch on the subject, I have a friend that's on hard times right now and tried to get some money out of the state. He pays taxes. He works hard. He's on some tough times right now. He can't even get a penny. They are making him jump through hoops. It is absolutely ridiculous. And you know what? There is no way that all the people they give the money to are jumping through the hoops he's trying to go through. They're even telling him he can't get it. It's absolutely ridiculous where the money's going.
Well, Matt, I mean, let me ask you, do you think they knew that all this money was going to obvious fraudsters?
You know, Jeff, someone has to know. We talk about it all the time. It's not just that. I mean, we'd have to be a little bit naive to think that it only happens in one place.
Well, Matt, look, they had 117 stolen identities out of 2 addresses, okay, 2 supposed apartments in Providence. They had no problem getting benefits. They had no problem getting, the full Monty, loaded up, snap EBT cards, loaded. So they weren't jumping through hoops. So I think you're right. I think it's very similar to what's happening in Minnesota. You vote for us, whether you come from the third world or you're an illegal alien or you're politically connected or whatever, you vote for us, or you make sure you get people to vote for us, and we'll give you all the freaking welfare you want. And go ahead and steal and steal and steal. And I think that's why Healey now doesn't want to hand over the list. Because if she hands over the list, we're going to find out most of the people who are collecting SNAP, not all, obviously, but most of the people who are collecting SNAP, it's very similar to Minnesota. They're fraudsters who are bilking and stealing from the system. And people like your friend who pay taxes, work hard, law-abiding Americans, they can't get a nickel. They can't get a nickel because it's all being stolen for the Democrats. Matt, thank you so much for that call. It's heartbreaking. I'm going to read to you a message I got from Chet about his poor mother. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. By the way, this story is, when I mean everywhere, it is everywhere. And so 4 individuals have been arrested just a couple days ago here in the People's Republic of Massachusetts for stealing. And again, this is when I say we're just barely scratching the surface, for stealing more than $1 million just in food stamps using 117 stolen identities. Now, the individuals charged are, this is the main culprit, Raul Fernandez Vicioso. He is a Dominican. I think he has naturalized citizenship, but he's also a Dominican citizen. Joel Vicioso Fernandez. Roman Viquez Fernandez. He's a Venezuelan illegal. Coralba Albarracin Siniva. I think he's also he's a Venezuelan. I think he's also an illegal. Anyway, and you see a picture. There's now a picture of the ringleader, this guy Raul Fernandez Vicioso. And I think it's a market basket. I don't know. It's a crate. And like these big packs of chicken breasts You know, like whatever, 6 of them in a pack or whatever. It's a crate loaded. I'm looking at least 30, 40 packs of these chicken breasts. And he's there in his Crocs, a hoodie, sweatpants. By the way, I mean, look, I got a spare tire. Okay, I'm a pretty heavy guy. This guy gives me a run for his money. Let me tell you, this guy, he hasn't missed a meal. Let's put it that way. Okay. And there he is nonchalantly, and he's holding a SNAP card. You know, the SNAP EBT card. And he's just holding it like it's a Visa. And he's just waiting to, just swipe it and, okay, let's load it up into my truck. I mean, it's disgusting. Honestly, it's disgusting. That's our money. That's our money. Anyway, and so the thing that never happens, because remember, the Democrats say this is never happening. This is all a lie. It's a figment of MAGA's imagination. Conservatives just make this up. Well, apparently it happened again. And it's happening again and again and again. Now, please, you got to listen to this, okay? 2 messages. Number 1, I won't mention this person's first name, because this person works for an investor, and so I don't want to get her in any kind of trouble or have her lose her job. So I'm just going to make up a name, Julie. I'm just making it up. This is from Julie on Messenger. Jeff, I work for an investor who owns many rental units, mostly in Lowell. All right, listen to this. Nearly all tenants receive SSI benefits, fuel assistance, SNAP benefits, food stamps, free childcare, of course, Section 8 or home base and raft. Holy mackerel. Many drive newer SUVs, have expensive manicures, they have expensive handbags, and listen to this, I don't even do this, and they go to Disney for vacations. I've never taken the kids to Disney. Why? It's expensive. It's freaking expensive. They take the kids to Disney for vacations. And she says, audit it all, in caps. Audit it all. Audit it all. She says, and she adds, she says, Jeff, it's so bad. The fraud is rampant. Listen to this. Plus, many have emotional support dogs. That's what they call them, huh? I mean, they scam everything. Well, you're not allowed pets in these rental units. But if it's an emotional support dog, whoa, okay. I wounded in water. I wounded in water. I have PTSD. I need dog. I need dog. Please, please, please. He's support dog. Plus, they have many emotional support dogs, which by law we have to take. And by the way, many do not speak English. They communicate via an app on their phone. Only 15 years ago, there was none of this. So, started under Obama. 15 years ago, 2011, who was president? Obama. And who started to let him in massive numbers? The dear leader. And it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. And someone just sent me a quick message saying, Jeff, I bet you dollars to donuts. Those 117 stolen identities that they had in just 2 apartments in Providence to collect all these SNAP cards and SNAP benefits, they're all registered to vote. Oh, I agree. I agree. That's why she won't hand over the list. It's not just that they're going to catch all the fraud. It's then they're going to say, well, what? I mean, these are people that live in New Jersey or Florida or, New York or Kentucky. And look at this. They voted in Rhode Island or they voted in Massachusetts. So they're voting in 2 different places. How the hell did this happen? So they're going to find not just welfare fraud, they're going to find voter fraud. I guarantee it. That's why she won't cooperate. Okay, and this one is heartbreaking. It's from Chet, and this is what he wrote me. Jeff, I think it's funny that my mother, who is 80 years old, and she only gets $12 a month in food stamps. That's not even enough for one dinner. Well, Chet, if you can put her on a diet of mac and cheese, and maybe a little can of soup, I think you can get it to $12. You see, for the illegals, for these fraudsters, it's steak, it's pork chops, it's chicken breast, it's fish, it's you name it. Okay, they take, it's SUVs, it's handbags, it's trips to Disney, it's Section 8, it's, it's welfare, it's fuel assistance, it's everything. But for your poor mother, 80 years old, blank you, here's $12. $12 a month, crumbs off the table, and be happy we gave you your $12. So, in a nutshell, this is exactly what's wrong with Healey's, Massachusetts. And when you bring in so many illegals and the welfare fraud that comes with it. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Maggie in Amesbury. Thanks for holding, Maggie, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure, Maggie.
So, Jeff, I have two. They're young adults, two nieces who are both blind. They've been blind from birth. So they get a little bit of SNAP benefits each month, even though they're trying to work part-time and do their part. But I have to take them to the store and, with them and do their shopping. So what I notice on these EBT cards, first of all, no one ever asks us for ID. And then when you put the card in the machine, you have an option to get cash. And I'm always shocked at that. I'm like, wait a minute, why is there a cash option? This is supposed to be just for food. And as I said, I've been helping them for years because, as I said, they have no vision at all. Why haven't I ever been asked for ID? And I look around and see who's using these cards. So I think that's a huge flaw in the system. And then the other part is I also have worked for the state for years. I don't want to say where I work. It's not SNAP. But, Jeff, the fact is these people in this leadership in Massachusetts, they're proud of the fact that they're hiding information from the federal government. They overlook people's immigration status. And it's garbage. I mean, I had to take my nieces to an ophthalmologist. They've been blind since birth. You look at them, and they don't have, regular eyes. So it's not like they're faking this. And yet I have to go to an ophthalmologist who's looking at me like I'm crazy to prove that they're blind. So they deliberately hurt the people that are here and that legitimately need the benefits, and they overlook and they're proud of it for the people. It's almost like they're proud to hide this information. I don't understand it. It's very frustrating.
Well,
I think the fraud is twofold.
Oh, I think it's threefold. I think we're just learning about this. I mean, this is something that's been going on for decades, and it's the key to their power. It's the key to their control. And think about, look how we've been conditioned. Massachusetts is a deep blue state. The Democrats run this state. There's no way you can ever beat them, right? Just what people think. It's a one-party state. And if you're going to beat them, oh my God, you have to join them. In other words, if you're a Republican, you got to be like a super moderate, super rhino Republican because, it's just such a blue state. But then you start looking and you're like, well, no, really, it really isn't. They got so many illegals now that are voting, and there's so much welfare fraud that they're hiding to make sure that the illegals keep voting for them and non-citizens. And they're shafting so many hardworking, law-abiding taxpayers who have no idea the extent to which they're literally being exploited and how our tax money is being wasted, stolen, to pay for these disgusting parasites and deadbeats. And you say, if people just knew the truth, just the truth, and we got these illegals off the welfare rolls, and we got the illegals off the voting rolls and they prevented them from voting, my God, Massachusetts would be a normal state. Maybe purple, very competitive. Republicans could win. Conservatives could win. In other words, think about how everything would change. So that's why they have to buy off the media to not expose stories like I'm doing right now, because God forbid, sunlight is the best disinfectant. So they don't want anybody to know about this. So they just sweep it under the rug. And then attack me, vilify me, discredit me, because they're afraid of the truth. But this fraud is so deep. I'm going to show you how deep it is. Okay, and then I want to get your final take on this, Maggie. President Trump came out and said, I had a discussion with both Elon and his Doge people, and Scott Bessent, who now, by the way, is really taking a very prominent, energetic, almost aggressive role, and I think it's a great thing, in the administration. And Bessent is infuriated with the fraud. He's going in heavy into Minnesota. He's the one now that's telling the White House, Massachusetts is one of the dirtiest states in the union. He's telling them, we're not going to let Healey get away with this. So he's the one that's telling the White House, issue statement after statement. We want the personal information of every SNAP EBT beneficiary. He says, I guarantee you 70 to 80% is fraudulent, bare minimum. So Bessent is coming hard now on Massachusetts, okay? Bessent and Elon have now told Trump, listen, now this is mind-blowing. If they aggressively expose and root out just the waste, fraud, and abuse in the welfare system, state after state, we balance our budget. We're looking at a $2 trillion budget. $2 trillion. They said a couple months ago they thought it would save $700 billion a year. $700 billion a year. They're now coming back to Trump and saying, no. What we just saw in Minnesota, the depth, how rampant the fraud is, and now what they're starting to see just in California, these are shocking numbers. And now what they're starting to glean just here in Massachusetts, they come back and they said, you can forget $700 billion. We're looking at $1.5 to $2 trillion. Every year. That if you just do this alone, you don't have to cut a penny in spending. If you're just spending on Americans. Not a penny, and you balance the budget. You balance the budget. Don't raise a penny in taxes. If you're just spending on Americans, you don't cut, a single penny you don't cut. You balance the budget. I was about to swear, so I don't want to get a fine. Okay? Holy, you know what was going to come out of my mouth. Okay? Holy mackerel. I mean, that's how widespread and extensive it is. So, look, Maggie, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. I'm not trying to wind you up. I'm not trying to get you angry. I really don't. You're a wonderful person that you care for your family like this. But you're being screwed. Your family is being screwed. Those poor blind kids are being screwed. As taxpayers, we're being screwed. We're being screwed. And what this amounts to is thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars per person, me, you, is being stolen from our pockets by the Democrats to take care of the illegals and all these hacks that, like parasites, are leeching off of this massive, almost unlimited welfare system. Look, I pay just $10,000 a year in property taxes. Just that. 3, 4, 5,000 is being stolen. That's what's paying for all this. Okay, just me as an individual. Never mind my state income tax, my sales tax. Just leave all that out. Okay, the gas taxes, leave all that out. That's how much they're stealing from us. Now, if this gets out, the Democrats are finished. Every independent will vote against Healey. Every Republican will vote against Healey. And even most Democrats who have been brainwashed into believing this propaganda are going to say, this is disgusting. Okay, Bill in Sudbury won't. Chris in Gloucester won't. The diehard Hitler in the bunker fanatics, they won't. But you're looking at a wipeout, an historic wipeout. That's why she has to stonewall. That's why she has to obstruct. That's why she has to cover up. That's why she's given orders to her minions in the media. Sweep this under the rug now. Because if not, look, apparently in Minnesota, according to polls, it's going to be a red wave in November. Okay? Amy Klobuchar is running to basically succeed Tim Walz. She's going to get wiped out. The lieutenant governor wiped out. It's going to be a massive red wave in Minnesota. And they've done a good job of deflecting from the fraud scandal. But just the little that they know, the taxpayers are mad as hell. So imagine here in Massachusetts. So I feel very sorry, honestly. And this has been going on, I believe, for decades. Look, this is abuse. This is abuse. What they've done to us is freaking abuse. Final word to you, Maggie.
I agree with you, Jeff, and I'll just say that the audit is desperately needed, not only for the consumers and the fraud that's being done, but for the duplicative services of many state agencies. The audit is long overdue.
Amen. Amen. The audit is, how do I say this? It's the political kill shot. The audit brings them down, and they know it. You know, it's like going after the mob. And you say, just open up the books. And everyone says, you open up the books, it's over. I mean, it's just going to be crime, 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 crime. You know, I mean, they're all going to fall like dominoes. And that's why, if you notice, they're going to die on this hill. They are not going to allow that audit to take place. Maggie, outstanding call. And God bless you again. You sound like an incredible human being. 617, and by the way, a superb aunt. 617-266-6868. Ben in the great state of Texas. Thanks for holding, Ben, and welcome.
Good morning. Good
Hi,
morning. I just want to say that you touched on it lightly when you said that Obama had something, is responsible. But the one thing that I know that Obama is mainly responsible is that he took off a little safety net that people would come and inspect, because I grew up with my mom and it was five of us plus six. It was six of us in a home, 2-room house, poor as hell. Sorry. And we had an outhouse. But my thing is, every 3 months there was a lady that would come with a clipboard and inspect our living conditions to make sure that we were indeed poor. And when she would come in, they would check, okay, we're poor. But when Obama came in 2008, he took that checklist,
that was welfare reform. That was what you're talking about, Ben, is the welfare reform that was passed by Republicans and Bill Clinton together in I think it was 1996. Don't quote me on that. It was mid 1990s. And, it was like, fine, you need welfare. That's okay. But we just want to make sure it goes to the people who deserve it, who really need it. And so they had these regular inspections. Obama got rid of that. And you're right, Ben, that opened up the floodgates. Then they just kept sending out checks and nobody knew where the money was going or whether they were poor or not poor. These people that are getting these checks, they're driving better cars than you and me, Ben. And they're collecting welfare. Ben, please finish. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to amplify what you were saying. Go ahead, Ben.
No, I see it here in the valley. We're right in the border, and I see people with baskets full of groceries with a better car than I do. In my day, when I was a child, there was no way. We had an old hand-me-down clunker that we could drive off. We couldn't have a good car. We couldn't have anything. Welfare is just...
Ben, can you hang on? All right, let's go right back to Ben in Texas. Ben grew up genuinely poor. They had very little. They had a clunker for a car, and there's no shame, there's no dishonor in that. That's life. By the grace of God, there go I. And so his family had to live on welfare. Yet Ben was making, I think, a brilliant point, which is, as we were growing up, because of welfare reform that was passed under both, Bill Clinton and a Republican Congress, you had people coming in to inspect to make sure it's poor people or the needy, those that are genuinely disadvantaged, that are receiving these welfare benefits and welfare checks. Under Obama, these, inspections stopped. And now you've got people living in, nice apartments, driving fancy cars, apparently going to Disney on vacation, and they're getting welfare benefit after welfare benefit after welfare benefit. Ben, please, can you pick up where you left off?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to say that when I was a child, they would give us food coupons or food stamps. When I would have to pay at a cash register with food stamps when I was a child, because my mom would send me to the corner store to buy some bologna or a loaf of bread with the food stamps, I would see people pay with money, and I would have to pay with food stamps. I felt ashamed. I don't know where the shame came from, but I felt ashamed as a child. I started working when I was 9 years old for $1 a day, from 7 in the morning to almost 7 o'clock at night in a ranch. So, I see that they say, yes, it's, food stamps and welfare is good for those who need it. But these fraudsters, no. But I'll say one thing, even if you do need it as a child, they say welfare is it's a hand-me-down or,
a handout.
A handout. I don't think it's a hand-me-up, like it's trying to help you. I think now it's become a it's like a stay down. Like, you're going to get food stamps and you're going to stay down because that's where we want you. We want a slave class to vote for us. I knew that was wrong as a child, and I was not going to fall into that trap, right? Now, I heard somewhere where it takes like 3-4 generations to get out of poverty. I'm already out of poverty because, I work. I'm working right now.
God bless you.
But
God bless you. So, Ben, you receive any public benefits at all?
No.
So basically, you did it in one generation. You got you by the bootstraps. You pulled yourself up out of poverty in one generation.
I was raised by my uncle. He died. He was almost 100 years old, and he grew up in the 1920s. And he said, "You don't work, you don't eat." It's that simple, and that's been my mentality all my life. I don't miss a day of work. I have to be dying to not work. But the main person that I see is responsible for all this fraud is Obama, when he took that safety net or check off.
Oh, you're dead on. You're dead on. Ben, have you called a show before?
Oh, a long time ago.
Ben, you got to call more often, my friend. Dynamite call. You're not 100. You're 1,000% correct. And you're an inspiration, Ben. I'm telling you, to many people, because you're proof that the American dream is alive. If you can pull yourself out of poverty in one generation, so what excuse does anybody else have? You did it. You're a trailblazer. Other people can do it. Ben, God bless you, and please call again. 617-266-6868 is the number. Eddie in Maine. Thanks for holding, Eddie, and welcome.
Good morning, Kuhner man. How are we doing?
Good. I mean, I'm in the wrong profession, Eddie. I should have came here as an illegal alien. I'd be a multimillionaire right now. Get one of these frauds going with Snap or whatever, daycares, and I could be a gazillionaire. But anyway, it's what can I tell you, Eddie? Go ahead, my friend.
Can't the President of the United States sign an executive order with every state has to behave, what do you call it, their, check their finances, a DOD, whatever they call it, to find out where all the money is going? I work for a major food chain as a part-time cashier. I see the fraud going on every day. So, and they're coming in $300-400 worth of food. Then they're buying always 5 cartons of cigarettes, 3 to 4 cartons of beer, and they pull a wad of cash out. Then you get 2 receipts. One receipt goes to the customer, and one receipt turns into the company. On the company receipt, there's the balance. And you look at it, and you see always thousands of dollars of balance on these food stamp cards, or welfare, whatever you want to call them. And one other thing, you and I talked about this a few years ago, that you said they were trying to do it in Europe, that they were going to start checking all these politicians, where all their wealth comes from, their wealth and their family wealth comes from. And one other thing, and I'll leave you, Jeff. Me and Faith and Paul made every one of your rallies just about. I don't see any rallies going on to support ICE or to support what the president is doing with marching out these friggin' aliens. And I'm saying something, they need some kind of support. What are we going to do? That's all I'm got to say.
Eddie, well, it may be time for another rally, my friend. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I got to tell you, they're lighting it up on Messenger right now. So it's story after story after story. By the way, this is from Dave, our constitutionalist correspondent out in the Pittsburgh area in Pennsylvania. And he's dead on. He was born and raised in Salem, Mass., but he's now out in Pittsburgh. And he said, this is what he wrote to me. Jeff, you know as well as I do, Republicans won't do, how do I say this? Crap. Nothing. Let's just really clean it up. Republicans won't do nothing. Crapola about this fraud in your state of Massachusetts. And this is what I find incredible. They should be all over this. They could destroy Healey right here, right now. The three, candidates running for the Republican, primary to challenge Governor Healey. I mean, they should be calling press conferences, press releases, writing op-ed pieces, holding speeches on this. They should be doing they should be ringing my phone off the hook to come on and get their point across to you, the great audience of Kuhner Country, to the voters. They should be doing every media outlet that'll hear them out. Instead, a little something on X, a little dinky press release, and that's it. Let's move on. We don't want to offend her too much. Let's not rock the boat. Honestly, pathetic. Pathetic. They should be going to town on Healey right now. 617-266-6868. Okay, very quickly. This is from Mark. Jeff, I kid you not. As I speak to you, I am driving through the projects in East Boston. And in front of every project apartment building, all I see are Mercedes, BMWs, Jeep Cherokees, Teslas, and Range Rovers. In other words, very expensive vehicles. But yet this is low-income housing? Question mark. Am I missing something, Jeff? Because I work and I can't afford any of these vehicles. That's why I say, treat me like an illegal. After a while, if you can't beat them, join them. It's disgusting. Mark, you're completely right. Honestly, completely. This is from Julie again. Jeff, please read this one. Now, all of you got to hear this. So this is the one whose boss is an investor with a lot of apartments in Lowell. Okay? A lot of rental units, predominantly in Lowell. Jeff, recently I met a woman who claimed that she is living in a hotel. She wants to apply for an apartment. She opened up her wallet to get out her ID, and she had several IDs in her wallet. So I had to ask, why do you have so many IDs? She said, I carry my mother's ID, my uncle's ID, my cousin's ID, in case I need them. And there you go, my friends. Huh? And you're going to tell me that welfare fraud is not rampant in Massachusetts? I mean, ay. You see, the mother gets food stamps, the uncle gets food stamps, the cousin gets food stamps, I get food stamps. In other words, everybody, you just keep using all these same IDs. And, you know, right down the list. SNAP, EBT, fuel assistance, free health care, free education, housing vouchers, just a whole enchilada, baby. Kenny in Weston. Thanks for holding, Kenny, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hello, Kenny.
How are you? Happy New Year.
Well, it's February, but sure, okay.
Yeah.
Kenny, I got to ask you, do you carry your mother's ID? Your uncle's
no,
ID? Your second cousin's ID?
Oh, we don't talk. No, only I know.
No, let me guess. You're like me. You're like a typical American. You just carry your own ID? Let me guess.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Because now I lost a lot of weight, so I got to kind of keep up that image, you know, and I got to make sure I represent. Hey, Jeff, back about 2 months ago, Diane DeZila was here, had a town meeting, or came over to Weston to the town meeting. So I'm thinking to myself, holy mackerel, Saturday at 6 o'clock. I get over there like at 5:15 because I'm thinking this place is going to be, I know it's going to be packed because I know how these people are when they got the banners up, democracy and oh my, I mean, they're very much involved with the town, and which is great. It's wonderful that kind of, so I'm thinking to myself, wow. So now I get over there. Now it's about, Diane comes in, so now it's about 5 minutes to 6. Next thing you know, 10 after 6. We're like, wait a minute, we all got the wrong place. Diane, her driver, her aide, that's 3, myself, this other guy, Peter, another woman, 5, and maybe 1 or 2 other people. What? Oh, wait, 7 people? Maybe. I'm like, where's everybody? Now, I mean, you see them out there protesting anti-ICE and blah, 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 you know, which is fine. You know, they're all at the common there on the weekends. And I'm thinking, there's going to be a big showing. Nobody's interested. No. Nobody's curious. I mean, I don't have a dog in the fight, but I'm kind of curious to hear what's going on. Amazing. So there you go.
Well, look, they're trying to, Kenny, they've been, the media, the Democrats, and frankly, even the Republicans, they're trying to blackball Diana DiZoglio, the state auditor. They don't advertise. They don't promote. They don't cover her. They don't want to give her any attention. They're basically trying to ghost her as if she doesn't exist. Because her logic, and by the way, she's very moderate on the issue of the state audit. You want my aunt, and I like her a lot. Please don't misunderstand this. I think she's way too moderate, personally. Okay? But that doesn't matter. She's right. You know, this is her argument. Her argument is 73% of the people of Massachusetts, across the entire political spectrum, Democrats, Independents, and Republicans, voted for a state audit on the ballot. Open up the books, have transparency. Let's see what our government is spending its money on. Honor the wishes of the voters and the people. That's it. That's her argument. She's not saying there is fraud. She's not saying she's going to prosecute fraud. She's not saying she's going to make referrals to prosecute fraud. All she says is, please just open up the books. Like, you know, pretty please with a cherry on top. We have an electoral mandate from the people to have a state audit. They're refusing to comply. They're obstructing. They're stonewalling her. And she just keeps pleading and pleading and pleading. And all she's saying is, what are you hiding? It's illegal, which is true. It's unconstitutional, which is true. It's immoral and unethical, which is true. It's a betrayal of the voters. It's a betrayal of democracy, which is true. It's all true. I mean, it's self-evident. It's self-evident. And yet, Channel 4, Channel 5, Channel 7, Channel 10, Channel 25, I don't care. The print media, the Globe, you run down the list. They won't give her 30 seconds. The Republicans don't highlight her. They could be doing events and promoting her. They won't. The Democrats want to bury her. And so here's this woman who, has the authority to expose billions of dollars, if not tens of billions, in massive, almost unheard of waste, fraud, and abuse, theft, corruption at the highest level. And they have frozen her out. I feel very sorry for her. She deserves a lot better than this. And she's a Democrat. Just so that people know, she's a Democrat. She's a registered Democrat. And she's just saying, just let me, like an accountant, let me just do an audit. So that tells you everything you need to know. So anyway, well, look, I'm going to try to get her on, see if she's willing to come on the Kuhner Report. I am going to ask some tough questions about what she thinks they're trying to hide. And, how far does she think the corruption and the rot goes? Okay, let me ask all of you, my friends. Have you ever witnessed welfare fraud? That is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's aluminum siding and windows. Have you ever witnessed welfare fraud? A, yes. B, no. You can vote on my webpage. Just go to WRKO.com/Kuhner, WRKO.com/Kuhner. You can also vote via X. My handle on X is at the Kuhner Report, at the Kuhner Report, KUHN as in national ER. I'm a yes. I'm an A on this. When I go shopping, whether it's Big Y, especially my local Stop and Shop, I can't tell you how many times I've seen illegal aliens, and they're clearly illegal. They don't speak a word of English. And I see a beautiful pickup truck, probably because they do construction on the side, in the parking lot. And there they are. It's usually a husband and wife or whatever, a couple, and 2 carts of food, not one, two. Loaded. I mean, it's got everything. Steaks, pork chops, chicken breast, rice, potatoes, fruits, salads. I don't know what now with these new requirements, but in the past, sodas, chips, junk food, you name it. It's loaded. I mean, it's loaded. I don't buy 2 carts of food. And believe me, I got 2 teenagers at home. I mean, they're eating me out of house and home, but I don't buy 2 carts. They have 2 carts. And boom, Mr. Brand New Pickup Truck, they pull out their wallet, wads of cash, and there's the SNAP EBT card. There's that EBT card right there. And it's exactly what, Julie said in her, when she, messaged me earlier. He's got expensive clothes. She's got an expensive handbag. They've got, everything is top dollar. Beautiful watches, beautiful jewelry. And there comes that EBT card. Okay? There comes that SNAP card. And I'm saying to myself, you're not poor. You're not even close to poor. So I just paid for those 2 carts. Us, the taxpayers. We paid for your 2 carts. So yes, I see welfare fraud almost on a weekly basis. No ID. They're never asked to show any ID. And it's true what Julie said. And what some callers have said. They can even get cash back. I'm looking at this. I go, whoa. What is this? An ATM bank card? This is supposed to be to buy food. So what do you mean you can get cash back? If you can get cash back, you can spend cash on anything. Drugs, booze, cigarettes, lottery tickets, or whatever. jewelry, whatever. I don't care. So this is a program for poor, needy, disadvantaged Americans. Okay? Poor, needy, disadvantaged Americans. And suddenly it's become this cash cow for illegals. And now the U.S. Attorney for Massachusetts arrested a fraud ring, just announced it 2 days ago, where they're raiding and stealing from SNAP and the SNAP program on top of another fraud ring, a month or 6 weeks ago, where they got two Haitian nationals for $7 million in a SNAP fraud ring. And we have the state auditor's office now saying there's $12 million they've easily found in fraud, most of it from the SNAP program, the food stamp program. And the White House is saying it's rampant, it's prevalent, it's everywhere. Give us the personal information on every SNAP recipient in Massachusetts, because we're going to uncover a ton of fraud. And Maura Healey is obstructing. She will not hand it over. She won't hand it over because she knows she hands it over, it's finished. Finito. She's done and the Democratic Party is done. Agree, disagree. Angelo in Rockland. Thanks for holding, Angelo, and welcome.
It's time for an audit between the voters wanting it and what we see unraveling. It's time. It's just time. The lies just keep spewing out from, no, we're not doing this, no, we're not doing that, you're Nazis, you're this. Everything's a lie they say to try to keep the power. It's unreal what we're all seeing. And the American people are very smart. They've had enough. We're not going to go burn our city down to prove a point. All we want is a safe audit and people held accountable for the wrongs they're doing. That's all. We just want America to be great. That's it. And come in legal, and we'll help you out. Don't rob our eyes out of our head. I like Short Sleeve, to be quite honest with you. He's a veteran. He's a good guy. I think he would do a good. He's a businessman. He'd do a good job for our state. And we need heroes that put their lives on the line and really love the country. And that's what we need. We can't have all this, what's going on. They're trying to bankrupt America and make us a third world country. We all know that. And, man, do they have their hoofs in doing what they're doing. We need heroes, not mattress heroes. That's what I got to say, Jeff.
Well, I got to say, on Brian Shortsleeve, I think he was the first. I may be wrong on this. I don't think I am. At least, look, I can only go by what I receive. Okay? But this is what I get in my inbox. It's up to their communications people to target the media, to get their message out to the media. So I can only go by what I get. Shortsleeve was the first one to go after Healey on this fraud scandal on SNAP, and to point out that Rhode Island had already warned her in June of 2024. You've got stolen identities. They're mostly coming from Massachusetts. The money is going to mostly Massachusetts fraudsters, and they're using 2 apartments in Providence, and they're claiming 117 stolen identities, and all of them getting EBT SNAP benefits. 117 in 2 apartments. We're talking massive fraud. And she was tipped off, clearly tipped off, by Rhode Island, and she did nothing. She didn't say anything to the feds. She didn't launch her own investigation. She did nothing. In fact, she tried to sweep it under the rug. Now, she's trying to deny that now, but she can deny it till the cows come home. The facts are the facts are the facts. So Shortsleeve was the first one out of the gate to go after Healey. But look, I'm not trying to poo-poo Shortsleeve. As I said, whoever wins the primary, I will support, because Healey is that much of a disaster. I look at all 3 of them, Mike Minogue, Mike Keneally, and Shortsleeve. They've got to be much stronger. I mean, I'm sorry. They got to be much. Just look at the Minnesota Republican Party. how they're hammering Waltz, how they're hammering Ilhan Omar, how they're now hammering Amy Klobuchar. It's like night and day. You know, for a mass Republican to make any kind of a criticism, it's like a heroic act. You got to smash them. You got to break them. You got to shame them. No, look, I'm Angelo, look, here it is. Let me say it because it needs to be said. Maura Healey is a crook. And the Democrat Party is a corrupt criminal organization. And the reason why they don't want a state audit is because they are covering up billions and billions and billions of dollars, of which this SNAP fraud scheme is just the tip of the iceberg, of stealing taxpayer money and running a pay-to-pay operation here in Massachusetts in which they're sending money or allowing money to be given to illegals in exchange for votes. That's what's going on. And people need to be sent away in handcuffs. This is the rape, the plunder, the abuse of taxpayers and our money. Now, I'm sorry, that's what it is. Now, they're saying that in Minnesota. The Republicans are, because it's true. And they're on the verge of a red wave. I mean, I know we're still, 8-9 months away from the election. But, you know, they're breaking them like an egg. Here, a press release is a big thing for them. And, you know, we want accountability. We want transparency. This is a pattern among Maura Healey. Because I know the people who run their campaigns. I know the losers who run their campaigns. And everything is poll tested. They poll test every word. Like, they're losers. They lose. I don't know why they even get hired. I know why. They're paid to lose. They lose election after election after election. And so they put their candidate in a straitjacket. And they tie their hands. So my advice to Brian Shortsleeve, if he's listening, just let her rip, man. Mike Minogue, let her rip. Keneally, let her rip. Don't hold back. You're the underdog anyway. You're not expected to win anyway. You're up against a formidable Democrat machine that uses voter fraud to steal and rig elections. So what are you parsing your words for? Why are you weighing every word and every phrase? And just speak the truth and people will listen. But if you come across as just another politician, another slick, packaged politician, then the Democrats are going to win. In other words, when you're running against a gangster, call her a gangster. It's like going up against Al Capone. He's a gangster. Call him out. Angelo, am I wrong? Final word to you.
No, you're absolutely right. Take the gloves off. They've been causing havoc in this country. They just too much city burn, all this ridiculous to get their lies across. Don't forget, they're doing what they have to do. You hit the nail on the head many times by saying they'll burn the country down just to not lose their power. And you know, we're not going to the streets. We're doing it by the pen. We're civilized people. We want to help everybody, and that's our hearts are there. But come in legally, do the right thing, and that's it, Jeff. I mean, they got to just expose them for what they are, and let's roll and keep America going great. I couldn't believe what you said earlier, how if they just budgeted the SNAP alone, it would straighten out all our bills here. It's unreal. Let's get on it, keep on them, and that's the end of them.
Amen. I agree. Look, just the welfare fraud. I mean, this is coming from the Treasury Department. This is Scott Bessent, and Elon is saying he's right. The whole country, not just Mass, obviously, the whole country, $2 trillion. We thought it was $700 billion, and that was an incredible number, okay? A massive, unheard of number. They're saying, no. We're looking at maybe 2 trillion. That's the whole budget, the budget deficit. That's the budget deficit right there. It's unbelievable. Look, It breaks my heart to say this. You have no idea how much it breaks my heart to say this. Okay, because my parents are from Eastern Europe, and I know that area very well, and they're known for corruption. It's not just communism, to be fair. It was before communism. It's now after communism. They just, whatever. Corruption and public corruption and stealing people's money. It's just more common in that part of the world, and frankly say even in Western Europe, okay? I believe now, if you're just looking at dollar amounts, we're the most corrupt country in the world. I'm sorry, it breaks my heart to say this. Even the Russians don't steal $2 trillion. I'm telling you, they don't. They don't have $2 trillion to steal. Even the communist Chinese, they don't steal $2 trillion. The Ukrainians, which is maybe the most corrupt country in Europe, them and the Russians, okay? It's always a fight between them, who's number one. They're stealing hundreds of billions because we're sending it there. But they're not stealing trillions because they don't have trillions to steal. This is a mind-boggling amount of money that is now being siphoned off and abused and wasted and outright stolen. And I'm not saying Republicans are clean, because they're never clean, but this is overwhelmingly among the Democrats. And this is what Newt Gingrich is saying. He's looking around like, what is wrong with everybody? This is the issue you can take. It's like a baseball bat to the head, politically. You can smash and break the Democrats on this issue. And, Minnesota, the Republicans are running on this. But here in Massachusetts, nothing. And other states, nothing. Maine Republicans, nothing. Janet Mills has turned, she's a kleptocrat. Janet Mills has turned Maine into little Somalia. And Maine, which was one of the cleanest, most honest states, with one of the cleanest, most honest governments, is now another Minnesota. It is ripe with corruption. Rife with corruption. So, to me, this is the issue the Republicans should be running on. Who likes to have their tax money stolen? How's that a winning strategy for Democrats? And to steal it either for themselves or to give it to illegals. It's not even benefiting Americans for the most part. So, no, we've got them, but we've got to be willing to go after them. Thank you so much for that call, as always, Angelo. Dina in Reading. Thanks for holding, Dina, and welcome.
It's Dana. Good morning, Jeff.
Dana, I am Mike,
Please forgive my nervous voice.
That's okay. Dana, go ahead, Dana.
I'm listening to this morning, and my blood is boiling. As a taxpayer, as a legal U.S. citizen, as a resident of this state for the last 31 years, just shy of 2 years ago, I received a letter from the state of Massachusetts instructing me to provide them proof that I've been looking for work in order to continue to receive my unemployment benefits. So, number one, I've never in my 40-plus year career as an engineer have filed for any unemployment or any public assistance program ever. And so I call up the state and I say, what's going on here? Why am I getting this? And the lady was very kind and very polite, and she just said, if this is not you, it's probably just fraud. She immediately rolled and said it's fraud. And I pushed her for giving me an answer as to, who is this person and how did they get my personal information to claim unemployment insurance from the state of Massachusetts? He informed me that this person lived in Kentucky, but wouldn't give me any name or other leads to follow up on. And I said, what's my recourse? I want this corrected. I don't want this on my record. I don't want to continue getting these notices in the mail. And I want this fraud stopped, first and foremost. And her attitude to me was just very lackadaisical, very not unwilling, but just, this happens a lot, and especially in the state of Kentucky, there's a cozy relationship with Massachusetts unemployment. and Kentucky. So there's apparently across state boundaries a lot of fraud going on. Once the money transfers from the state of Massachusetts out of state, how does it get tracked? There's no trace. How does it get traced? How does all this fraud that's being perpetrated on the American taxpayer, in particular state of Massachusetts taxpayers, how does that? You can't put a number on it, Jeff. It's beyond SNAP and EBT. It's gross and disgusting, and it's just I just wanted to say that, and that's just my experience. So, I have witnessed fraud and abuse directly at a grocery store multiple times. And, what do? You don't dare say anything for fear of being escorted out of the building and not being able to buy your own groceries. And they apparently value the privacy and rights of illegals and people who commit fraud more so than legal American citizens who pay their taxes dutifully every year and stay out of trouble and abide by the rule of law. So, how do they get my personal information? It was my first concern, and that's all I have to say, Jeff.
Well, you nailed it. Look, they care more about illegals, foreigners. Let's be clear; these are foreign nationals who illegally came into our country, which means they broke the law. So they're criminals. Okay, I understand it's civil; it's not technically criminal, but it's a crime. It's a crime to come into our country illegally. And never mind all the other crimes they commit, document fraud, identity fraud, fake social security numbers. I could go on and on, okay? So they will put criminal foreign nationals, their priorities, their interests above hardworking, law-abiding American citizens. Now, that tells you everything you need to know about the Democrat Party, and in particular about this governor and about the Democrats who run this state with an iron fist. And it's not difficult to break their stranglehold, but you got to have guts, you got to have courage, you got to have honesty, you have to have authenticity, and you have to be willing to stand up to this corrupt machine. And, we need a fighter. That's what, you really want to know what we need? We need a Donald Trump. 617-266-6868 is the number. I got to say this. I'm not surprised. The only thing I'm surprised about is that it took this long for us to really start getting concrete proof and investigations and now arrests and even more investigations now apparently coming in from the federal government and the U.S. Attorney's Office, with the White House now getting involved at the rampant fraud that they're now starting to uncover, especially in the SNAP EBT program, the food stamp program. By the way, I don't think it's just limited to SNAP or food stamps. I think you're going to see it in Section 8 housing, more as Healey's hotels. You're going to see it in welfare. You're going to see it, mass health, Medicaid. If they start opening up one program, they're going to see there's fraud in other programs. And we're not just looking now at a couple billion. I think we're looking at Minnesota level 10, 15, 20, God knows how many $1 billion. So, no, there's no question now. Healey needs to shut this thing down and shut it down fast. Because if Besant, the IRS, if the feds really start getting involved, this could be the mother of all scandals. And I think the Democrats know it. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Vince in Long Island. Thanks for holding, Vince, and welcome.
How are you doing, Jeff? How's it going?
Good. How are you, Vince?
All right. I wanted to say, is that Mike a Democrat plant since he's always cutting people off there that you're saying? In the middle of every...
And I got to tell you, it's the glee with which he does it. It's the big smile on his face. That's, it has me wondering at times there, Vince. I mean, technically, Mike, how many times have you voted for Trump? I think you voted for him in 2020, correct? Yeah. So but you were ineligible twice. You were not eligible to vote in 2016, correct? Really? Oh, you were at school in Alabama. So what? You didn't vote then, correct? Okay. No, I mean, Mike didn't care. Mike was all into college football. All, Crimson Tide, go baby. And he says he goes, he'd still rather watch, sports and football than, follow politics. That's what Mike is literally in my ear saying, who cares about fraud? The Super Bowl is on Sunday. So, but he did vote for Trump in 2020. He did vote for Trump in 2024. But, Vince, sometimes I wonder myself, my friend. Is Healey putting a mole on the show? That's all. But anyway, let that go. Go ahead, Vince.
I was saying your vote in Massachusetts doesn't even matter because, the state is Anyhow, that woman you talked about with all those IDs. She should have no problem voting with the proper ID, I guess, since she has all those IDs. No,
I guarantee you that woman she's voting 4, 5, 6 times. I mean that's it's like it's just like okay now I'm my aunt. Okay, now my mother, now my sister, now my niece. She just keeps going back and forth. Vince, are you shocked at the amount of fraud that is now discovered in Minnesota, that they're finding out in California, and now apparently here in Massachusetts?
My mother used to work during the 90s when there was that big Russian wave of immigrants, and she used to work with a woman who proudly displayed all her welfare schemes. She divorced her husband, got him on disability. She used to have a housekeeper come by. So she had an apartment. He had another apartment paid by the government. She used to go over there for dinner every night because they'd have free meals delivered by the social welfare system. She had practically a maid who was supposed to be his keeper and look after the husband, but she was practically the maid, doing the dishes, cleaning the place and everything. They used to have inspections once in a while back in the 90s where the state went to inspect. And a couple of times they found the closet full of clothes. And they're like, what are these women's clothes doing in this guy's apartment? And she's like, my daughter just put him here for storage. She didn't have room in her own apartment. Then they used to get away with this crap. Then she used to have the housekeeper come in and 3/4 of the time she's like, don't even bother coming in. I'll look after my husband and we'll split the pay.
And did the housekeeper go along with that scam?
Yeah, it's a whole enterprise. She went past that. She used to bring her relatives from the old country, and she used to have them go. It was all integrated into this whole system of Russians in this location, New York. And the doctors were in on it, too. She used to bring her relatives for medical treatment under her Social Security number and split the fees with the doctors. This is how crazy it is. And we're coming due on tax day on April 15th here. And how disgusting is it to send your money in for this kind of crap? You were talking about property tax. You're paying $10,000. I'm paying close to $20,000.
Oh, my God.
And every student on Long Island costs about $40,000 per student. How many of those are illegals? Just add them up. A family of 4 illegal kids. That's $160,000 coming out of my property taxes. And I have no kids. What do I get out of it? Absolutely nothing. And to see what fraudulent scammers these Democrats are, the governor we have here, Hochul, she sends on election year a $400 rebate on your taxes. Now, that does a lot, right? $400 off a $20,000 bill. That does a lot. Only on election year.
It's highway robbery. Vince, really, it's highway robbery. And look, we've got to expose it. Okay, just very quickly, I know I asked the poll question earlier, but let me ask it one more time because it's so pertinent to what we're talking about today in the wake of the series of arrests announced on Tuesday, and then again maybe 6 weeks ago by Leah Foley. She's the U.S. Attorney for Massachusetts. And she says now there's serious SNAP, food stamp, SNAP, EBT fraud rings that exist in Massachusetts. Some of them have now been busted. They have been exposed. Arrests have been made. 4 people were arrested 2 days ago. 2 Haitian nationals were arrested, late December, early January. And it's only the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more to come. This fraud is very widespread. It is rampant. It is very deep. The state auditor's office found $12 million in fraud. And that was a very preliminary audit because they can't look at the books because they're denying the audit, the full audit voted on by the voters in November of 2024. So we're already looking at $20 million in fraud, and we've just barely, as I said, opened the door. And Maura Healey now is resisting the White House. The White House has gotten directly involved. The U.S. Department of Agriculture, which is where all the food stamp money comes from, is now requesting, in fact demanding, that Healey hand over the list of SNAP recipients, the personal information of everyone who's a beneficiary of SNAP food stamps in Massachusetts, because they're saying we're going to find a ton of fraud. Just give us the list and we'll do the rest. She's obstructing. She's stonewalling. She's refusing to hand it over. So my question to you, have you ever witnessed welfare fraud? It's the poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. A, yes. B, no. As I said, I'm a yes all the way. Speaking of food stamps, SNAP, I see the fraud almost every week. As I mentioned, brand new pickup truck, couple, very well dressed, expensive handbag, I'll tell you this, fancy shoes, nice jewelry on both of them, not a word of English, and I'm talking 2 carts of food. And I'm, not the cheap stuff, the good stuff. So meats, fruits, vegetables, whatever, chips, they load that baby up, let me tell you. I don't know how they can eat all that, but anyway, and they pull out that SNAP card. And by the way, you can get cash back. So, yeah, I've witnessed the fraud. I've witnessed it almost every single freaking week. But that's me. I want to hear from you. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, KUHN is a national ER. You can also vote via X, my handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, KUHNER. Catherine in Boston. Thanks for holding, Catherine, and welcome.
I have so much to say on this topic, but I want to make 3 quick points and a correction. The correction is that you can't take cash back from food stamps. So if you get cash benefits, that's what the cash option is for, which is a whole separate account from the food stamps. So just so people don't think that people are taking cash from food stamps, that's not possible.
Oh, okay. So I must be confusing it then with the EBT card, correct?
Yeah, well, it's all on the same card, but you wouldn't be able to get cash unless you actually have cash benefits.
I understand. Okay, I got you. Thank you. That's a very good clarification. Thank you, Catherine.
And then, so first, I've been homeless 3 times over the past 15 years. I've been in homeless shelters, and I now have Section 8. So I've been through all these systems myself, and the hoops that an American citizen has to go through to get through these programs is absolutely insane compared to the illegal immigrants that come and get put on these assistance programs automatically when they're under the temporary protective status. We have to prove that we're homeless. We have to go through an extensive, interrogation. And for myself, when I was homeless, they actually went out to my mother's apartment and interviewed my mother and inspected her apartment to make sure that I really couldn't stay there. So, it's like a slap in the face to people that have to go through this and have to be put through this, humiliation, basically, to prove that we actually have nowhere to go. And then these people come here and they just automatically get put up in hotels or in apartments or whatever the case is. And so I know somebody who recently had to go into a shelter with an infant, and they turned her away 3 separate times because that's what they're trained to do, is to turn people away and, make them actually put in a lot of work to prove that they have nowhere else to go. And she has an infant baby, and she told them she'd be out in the cold, and they kept sending her away. And then I know somebody else who did get into a shelter, a hotel in Lowell, and she was the only American in there. The whole hotel is full of homeless immigrants, and nobody even speaks English over there. So I have questions about that. I don't understand how we still have full hotels of people, and ICE isn't just raiding those hotels. And then I also wanted to say,
Catherine, just as you collect your thoughts, I've got to ask you, and you're making outstanding points, by the way, on the food stamp program. Okay, we know we all see it. We see it every day at the grocery store when we go shopping ourselves, how widely abused it is. We can all see it. But these schemes that, these multi-million-dollar schemes now that people are getting arrested for, and it's, being broken and busted up. They seem, these illegal aliens or these fraudsters, okay, who are here legally, take this Dominican Venezuelan group that, got over $1 million that were just arrested a couple days ago. It seems to me that they are able to get stolen identities. This is what, Leah Foley said, the U.S. attorney, and quite easily acquire food stamps or whatever, SNAP EBT cards or whatever. They, it's not like they're being put through many hoops. And they've got card after card after card after card, and it doesn't seem to be too hard to get. And so my question to you is, as a law-abiding American citizen like yourself, who's been through the system, has been put through the ringer, when you apply for food stamps, or I don't know if you ever did, but if you did apply for food stamps, do they just send it to you in the mail or just transfer it over to your card, no questions asked? Because that's how it seems to be working for many illegals and many people who are abusing and scamming the system. They didn't seem to break much of a sweat. They had identities from, Florida, New Jersey, New York, from everywhere, Massachusetts, obviously. And they gave them 2 addresses in Providence, Rhode Island. And the money just kept coming in. And they had card after card after card. And they either stole the money, or they sold the cards, or they bought the food and funneled it into that restaurant. So how hard is it for someone like you to get SNAP or food stamp benefits? Is it easy or is it difficult?
Well, basically, if you have children, which is crazy, if you have children, you pretty much qualify for any public assistance program that there is, but you can't also work. So if you have a job, it's very unlikely that you're ever going to get approved for any of these programs. And if you're already on a program, I'm on food stamps. I've been on food stamps, on and off food stamps many times over the past 10 years. If you are on one of these programs and you get a job, then your benefits automatically get cut almost immediately as soon as they find out. You don't even have to report. It gets reported to them once you start working. So even if you don't tell them yourself, they're going to find out that you're working and your benefits will get cut. And, that's intentional because the point of these programs is to keep people poor, not actually help them get off of assistance. So, no, it's not easy to get on these programs. And
do you have to show, when you first apply for food stamps, sorry, we only got about a minute left, Catherine, do you have to show ID, proof of, whatever, citizenship or, ID, or do they just give it to anybody?
Yes, we do have to show ID and proof of residence. And I know that for the immigrants, they send social workers to these hotels and shelters instead of having the immigrants go into the offices.
Incredible.
So that's why they do it.
Incredible. Just incredible. So they go to them instead of them, going to the office. Again, Americans, third-class citizens, illegals, front of the line. I am just getting absolutely inundated with just incredible examples from people who, longtime listeners, who, like Catherine, either are in the system or have been in the system. And by the way, there is no shame in being in the system. I've said this many times. By the grace of God, there go I. To me, we have a social safety net for people because of unfortunate circumstances. Listen, I was lucky to be born in a middle-class family with a father and a mother. And, I was, I won't say privileged. That's a bit strong. But, I could have been born in very different circumstances. God forbid you lose your job. You could be out on the street. There's so many things that can happen. So to me, our social programs are there to benefit Americans, vulnerable Americans, when they need it. That's what it's there for. And there's no shame in taking it. Now, there's shame if you're abusing it, if you're stealing from it, if you're committing fraud, then to me, you're a crook. You're no better than a crook. But, look, I'll just give Ben in Texas as an example. He had his father died when he was young. He had a single mom, and they were trying to raise, 3-4 kids. And the poor woman had to take care of her kids, so she couldn't work. And so they had to live on welfare. Okay, she's taking care of her children. She's a mother. She's got she's breaking her back. That's what it's there for. It's there to help people in need. But the point was, he was poor. And that's where the money should go, to help poor people. And to me, nothing, honestly makes me happier than when he said, and he's right. They usually say it takes several generations to get out of poverty. He said, no, I was determined to work. My uncle taught me, you got to work. You want to eat, you got to work. And with, in his lifetime, he's working. He's out of poverty. God bless him. To me, that's America. That's what this country's all about. But the point was, and his point was, look, we were Americans, number one, and we were genuinely poor. And then they were still coming to the door and checking, and are you really poor? Where do you live? Let me look at your fridge. What kind of car are you driving? He said, we got this old clunker. A lemon, as they used to call it. Instead, look how everything is upside down. I mean, they're scamming everything. And, they're wearing thousands of dollars worth of clothes. They go on Disney vacations. They've got carts and carts of food. They've got jewelry up the wazoo. I mean, you could just go on. I mean, they're robbing us blind. And that's our money. So number one, we've got poor people in our own country, Americans, who aren't getting the assistance that they desperately need and deserve. We've got homeless veterans, for God's sake, sleeping on the street. And our taxpayer money is being stolen and ripped off. On top of everything else. I mean, I'm sorry. It's wrong on every angle. Anyway, so just look, I'm telling you, the audience is on fire today. Let me just, another friend of mine, but, I won't mention his name, but it's from 603. Okay. You can text the Kuhner man 70470. I'm just going to keep this person's name anonymous to protect him. Jeff, I don't understand why people are shocked about the fraud and the lack of an audit when the state of Massachusetts has never corrected the corruption in the RMV. I have a friend who is a social worker in Massachusetts. She has tried to report clear fraud and abuse within the system. She was told numerous times that it is not her responsibility. She was told explicitly not to look that deep into anything beyond exactly what she's supposed to be responsible for. In other words, just cut the checks. or just send out the checks. Don't ask who the checks are going to. Don't ask if these are legitimate checks. In other words, people who deserve to legitimately be receiving these benefits and these checks. Shut up and do what you're told. You know, as the expression, stay in your lane. So it's going to illegals. It's going to fraudsters. It's going to people with stolen identities. Just shut up. It's going to people who are, you know, got multiple identities and they're registering to vote for the Democratic Party. It's a massive scheme. Shut up and just deliver the check. That's all. That's all you're paid to do. Or if you're there to inspect anything, just check the boxes and go home. Or else, you know what? You're going to lose your job. Or else it's not going to be good for you. Dynamite point 603. So, you know, I mean, it's example upon example upon example upon example. Now you know why Healey doesn't want to hand over the list of personal information of people who are collecting benefits from SNAP and other welfare programs. Because if the feds get a hold of this, you're looking at another Minnesota. Annie in Chelsea. Thanks for holding, Annie, and welcome.
Oh, hello.
Annie.
Greetings from the sanctuary city of Chelsea. Jeff, I love you in a non-sexual way. Jeff, I've worked for the state for almost 30 years. I am a senior. I'm paying taxes on my pension, and I'm paying property tax. I cannot get food stamps. And the reason why I cannot get food stamps is because they go by your gross pay to be eligible for it. Well, Jeff, my take-home pay can't even take me home. So I don't think that's right, you know, to go by what you gross. I don't get that money.
Oh, Annie, I completely agree. And let me tell you what's even, to me, more insulting. I look at these illegals, not all, obviously, but many of them. Here, I go to my grocery store. They're doing construction on the side. Or, you know, they're electricians on the side, or plumbers on the side, or landscaping on the side, or, you know, whatever. They're working in a restaurant on the side. Or so they have a quote unquote full-time job. And they're getting paid. By the way, they pay no taxes. I mean, sure, they pay a sales tax, but, you know, they pay no income tax. All under the table. It's all tax-free under the table. So, you know, they're working 40, 50 hours a wek, collecting a nice wad of cash, okay, a nice paycheck, and then they get all the benefits. And by the way, I've noticed this. They don't marry. They live together, or they may have two apartments. But to get more money, he's a single man, she's a single woman. I mean, they got this thing rigged 6 ways to Sunday. And an honest, law-abiding person, an American like you, who's just upfront about everything, saying, hey, look, you know, I'm elderly. Social Security doesn't cut it. I can't live on Social Security. I've got to work, you know, I got to work a little bit to supplement my income. And even then, I'm living my, you know, hand to mouth, you know, proverbial check to check. I need some food stamps to help me out. And they run you through the ringer. It's like, you know, pulling teeth to get anything from these people. But if you were an illegal alien and you were working under the table and you had, you know, a fake Social Security number and you were collecting everything illegally, oh yeah, they'd give you a big giant SNAP EBT card and you can load up 2 carts, no problem, every single week. I mean, honestly, you'd be 300 pounds by the time you're done with these people. You know, how much food you would be able to eat and consume. And so I think there's a point, Annie, where the citizens have to say enough is enough. You know, Maura Healey, believe it or not, works for you. She works for me. She works for us. She's not our boss. We're her boss. It's about time we said you're fired. Annie, am I wrong?
I can't see why we can't have a recall.
Amen. Amen. Annie, you've been calling this show now for so long. And honestly, you're very funny. You have a great sense of humor. But are you following the Republican primary at all for the gubernatorial race to see who's going to be the nominee to challenge Healey. Is there anyone in particular you like or you're leaning towards right now?
Not right now. I haven't really,
You haven't locked in yet.
Early, for me to try to decide.
Annie, would you like it if I got these candidates on and maybe, asked them some tough questions about where they stand on the key issues? Would you like that, or you think I'm wasting everybody's time?
A great idea, and I know you would question them, intensely.
So, or if you want, Annie, honestly, if the audience wants it, and I know you do, but if enough of you want it, I'll do it. I mean, really, I'll do it. So, because we got to beat Healey. I mean, this is getting out of control. Look, if the feds get a hold of that personal information, that list, that alone, she's going to go the way of Tim Walz, Tampon Tim. I'm telling you this, look, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but if this thing really breaks wide open and the White House now is aggressively pushing, they may just kick her off. They may have to run a completely different candidate like they're doing in Minnesota, with Amy Klobuchar. So we'll see. I don't want to get ahead, I don't want to get ahead of my skis, as they say. But no, she's sitting on a powder keg right now. This is a massive fraud scandal. She knows it. The Dems know it. And above all, the corrupt media knows it. That's why see no evil, say no evil, hear no evil. Play stupid, and let's see how far we can get with it. Well, that's the strategy in Minnesota. It didn't work out. Hopefully it won't work out here. Annie, thank you so much for that call. David in Melrose. Thanks for holding, David, and welcome.
Jeff, I went to my state senator this week, actually, and I asked the gentleman, he was a very nice man, about the fact that the state referendum passed unanimously with the public to do an audit of the state legislature. And I asked him about it, and he said that the state auditor is part of the executive branch, the legislative branch is the other branch, and it's going to the Supreme Court right now to determine whether or not the state auditor can audit the state legislature because of the fact that it's a different branch. Now, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know I don't have a comeback for that. But maybe your audience can.
Oh, David, I'll tell you the comeback. I mean, it's such a it's delay. It's just a delay tactic. And they want the corrupt court system here in Massachusetts to bail out the corrupt legislature. So they came up with this completely preposterous theory. So you mean to tell me, here, just sit back, that the executive branch has no oversight responsibility over the legislative branch? So we have all of these agencies just to give you an example, let's take it out of the state, in the federal government, and they have no responsibility. They have no audit of what the legislative branch is doing. So, in other words, when Rand Paul, during, say, the money they were spending on Ukraine, and he said, well, the executive branch should have at least one auditor look at all the money that we're appropriating and sending to Ukraine. And everybody, of course, hated the idea because everybody knew the Ukrainians, the government was stealing it. But no one ever said, well, my God, you can't give the executive that kind of power. You can't do that. My God, they can't see what we're doing, just like we can't see what they're doing. No. So what's the point of having a state auditor? So what? The state auditor is what? Only there to what? Audit the governor? Okay, well, who approves the money for the governor? The state legislature. Like, even if you go by their whack theory. So, okay, fine, I'm auditing the governor. The governor relies upon the budget passed in the legislature. Fine, so all I want to do is look at the budget. No, they're coming up with the most preposterous, complicated fraudulent reasons to protect their fraud. Now, they're going to push it in the state court because they control the state courts. So this is why, and the White House, I think, has now figured this out. So the White House is saying, okay, if you guys are going to play that game, then we're going to exercise federal oversight. So all they're trying to do, they're like a nest of thieves. They're just trying to prevent DeZoglio from doing what the people asked her and voted her to do. And by the way, if it was allegedly, it's not. But let's say for the sake of argument, it's illegal. It's unconstitutional. It violates separation of powers. Okay? That's their BS reason. Why wasn't then this decided before the ballot? Why would you put this ballot initiative for the people to vote on if it was clearly unconstitutional? It should have been passed constitutional muster before it was put on the ballot. So they were shocked. They didn't expect it to pass. Just like the Clintons didn't expect that they were going to be held in contempt of Congress. Because you see, the Clintons never expected that Democrats would bolt. That Democrats would cross the aisle and vote for them to be forced to testify. Democrats here couldn't believe that Democrat voters said, yeah, why not? It's our money. Why can't we see what they're spending the money on? So that so many Democrats joined independents and Republicans, they didn't see that coming. So now they're in a bind. And now it's just delay, lie, obfuscate, lie, obfuscate. So, no, you mean to tell me, just stand back objectively, is this now the position of the legislature of Beacon Hill and the governor of Massachusetts? That we, the voters, don't have the right to have transparency in how our money is spent? That we don't have the right to look into the state budget, which is our money, and see where the money is going? What is this, communist China? Like they're going on about, trumping a king. No kings. He's a dictator. This is the definition of a dictatorship. It's our taxpayer dollars. How come we don't have the right for transparency? And by the way, since when is the state auditor, that's her job, it's to audit. She can audit a judicial branch, the executive branch, the legislative branch. If she wants, she can audit companies. She can audit the private sector. She can audit the public sector. So, no, they're blowing smoke. They're blowing smoke. And they're relying now, and this is what Minnesota did as well, rely on corrupt Democrat judges to bail out corrupt Democrat politicians. That's why I'm saying to hell with it. Call in the feds. Call in the feds and do thorough federal oversight. Because I'm telling you, they know if you open up the books, this thing is over. David, final word to you.
The only thing to do is call in the feds, because I can't think of anything else. Maybe your audience can, but that's the only thing I can think of.
Look, ultimately, this is what we have to say as voters. We voted for it. It was a super majority. Respect the will of the voters, period. And if you don't, you're an illegitimate government. I mean, there's a way we can do this without the feds if we were serious, which is, okay, if you want, we'll hold a second referendum or a ballot. We'll put it 2026. How's that? We'll do a second one. I mean, we'll do a third one. We'll go on the streets. We'll protest. Don't tell us we don't have the right to look at how our money is being spent. Show me anywhere in any democratic country in the world that this is allowed. It's not. Only in this corrupt hackorama state. So, David, look, we've got him by the tonsils. And my only criticism of Diana DeZoglio, and I think she's outstanding, and I like her, and Godspeed. I back her all the way. She's got to be tougher. She's too nice. She's too polite. She's playing by, the Queen of Marksbury rules. She's got to be much harder, much tougher, much nastier. Because you have to think about this. We're not dealing with quote unquote politicians. Think of this as the mob. a mafia state. We're dealing with gangsters who call themselves politicians. And they break the law like gangsters, and they steal like gangsters, and they abuse power like gangsters. So when you're dealing with gangsters, you don't come in with the soft touch. You go in hard and you go in heavy. David, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. 617-266-6868 is the number. No, and by the way, this is the only time in the history of Massachusetts, just so that you know, that they're not abiding by the will of the people on a ballot initiative. You know, to give the Moonbats their due, even when we block them on raising taxes, okay, through ballot initiatives, and you know how much they love to raise taxes. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? They tied our hands. What are you going to do? Okay, doesn't matter. Income tax, whatever. Gas tax, whatever. But now, where their crimes are all there in that budget. And remember, it's not one budget. You're looking at corruption and thievery going back decades. Paul in Bellingham. Thanks for holding, Paul, and welcome.
I was speaking with Sandy a couple of times when you were out, but I finally got through.
Well, welcome, Paul. Welcome.
So I have to tell you, I was on my way home this morning and something struck me. You had someone call in and he was talking about he got something from the Division of Unemployment that he had to, fill out some stuff. And he's saying, but I'm not even looking for this. Do you recall that this morning?
Yes.
So, well, I'm living proof right here. I'll be 72 in March. And when I was 66, in November, probably beginning to mid-November of when I was going to be 66, whatever year that was, 2020, okay, I got a letter from unemployment, and I was working, and I had been working for almost 20 years for this company, stating that I had applied for unemployment benefits and stuff, and I had to fill this stuff out. And I'm saying, I didn't request this. This is crazy. But it gets even better. My oldest son, who's now 46, he has the first name. He's also a Paul, okay? And he works for the town of Bellingham in IT, and he takes care of all the computers and for the whole school system. And he got a call from the human resources director saying, Paul, why are you applying for unemployment when you're working? And he says, he didn't. So both him and I called the state police. We had to go to Social Security, and then we had to recontact unemployment to try and get this away, to go away. And it was a scam. But it gets even better. So that was probably in beginning to mid-November of 2020. So the beginning of December, I get a call from my boss. He wants to meet with me. He's doing away with my position. I'm the only salesperson that he ever had hired there. And like I said, I was there almost 20 years. He used to do it himself directly, him and his partner. So he's letting me go because he didn't need me anymore because he knew who all my contacts were over the years. And so he just wanted to, blow me off. Okay, that's fine. So I was done officially December 31st, and I waited a few days, and it was the 6th of January of 2021, and I did what I needed to do. I went online because you can either call on the phone or go online to unemployment. And I did that, and I immediately got an email back from them asking me for a password. I'm saying, password? I don't have an account. And I'm saying, what's going on? Then they started emailing me. They had my email address and everything, and they were calling me Leroy McLaren. So I'm now Leroy McLaren. So there was obviously some serious fraud. Like I said, I went to the state police, Social Security, and everything a month and a half prior. Well, guess what? They did nothing with it at unemployment. Most of the people that I would talk to at unemployment, unfortunately, could barely speak English, which I found very depressing. And this went on for quite a while. But one of the first things when I finally spoke to someone, when I called back, or actually called after trying to do it online, and they said, yeah, there's some kind of fraud, so what we need you to do is take your driver's license and copy the front of it and the back of it. which I did, and I sent it in. Well, then they asked for a few other things, and I did everything they asked. But needless to say, I wasn't collecting unemployment. I wasn't improved. I kept getting emails. I can't tell you how many times where they were calling me Leroy McLaren. This went on for over 2 months.
Hold on. So, Paul, for 2 months, you did not collect a check?
Collect anything. And
you had nothing for 2 months. No unemployment check, no nothing.
Nope. And I tried getting food stamps and everything. I didn't get anything. Okay. So it's really crazy the way the system is. But what was I going to say? So one morning I was at home and I would stay up late at night, and about 9:30 in the morning my phone rings, my cell phone, and I answer it, and it's somebody from unemployment, and he says, I need to go over some stuff with you. And I said, okay. I says, can you give me a couple of minutes? I was just lying down still. Sure, take your time. I'm not going anywhere. So I get dressed, and I came out. I put the phone on speaker so my wife could hear it, what's going on. And he starts talking to me and asking me questions. And he says, we're having a problem identifying you. We can't identify you. Because when they had me send a picture of my driver's license, front and back, evidently when it came through, they couldn't see what they wanted, and I forgot to tell you, they had me send my driver's license stuff probably 3 or 4 more times individually. But anyway, I said to him, oh, so you're telling me you're still using the original thing I sent in, and you can't see my picture and figure out who I am, even though I've already done it another 5 or 6 times. And he says, listen to me, you be quiet. That's what I'm using, whether you like it or not. And I got so irritated, I said to him, if I had a gun, I'd shoot myself. He says, uh-oh, we got a suicidal here. I have to call the state police on you. Okay, I said, look, I don't even own a gun, but I have to call the state police.
These people are idiots. You know what? Paul, these people are idiots. I mean, they're idiots. They really are. But, look at the attitude. You earned that. You paid into that. You're entitled to these unemployment benefits. And look at the way they treat you. I'll tell you this. If you're an illegal alien, I guarantee it, they wouldn't talk to you like that. Oh, no, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. No, sir. Pable español, whatever. Do you speak Spanish? We'll get somebody on who speaks Spanish. Arabic, Chinese, whatever. Just whatever you need. You want to see how insane Maura Healey is? I know you know this already, but just, again, the evidence just keeps piling up. When it comes to not just the mismanagement of the state, the fraud, but the economic destruction, the radical green socialism that she is imposing, and the price and the cost of all of this. So, as you know, Heat Pump Healey is visiting Canada today. In particular, she's in the Maritimes, in the eastern provinces of Canada. Apparently, she's up in Nova Scotia. Now, you may be saying, Jeff. Okay, the loser governor of Massachusetts, hold it, Healey, Heat Pump. Heat Pump is up in Nova Scotia. What's the big deal, Jeff? You know why she's there? It's part of her net zero by 2050 initiative. She's there to build a wind farm. We're going to pay for this, okay? A wind farm, by the way, apparently from scratch. Okay? Like we're starting like from the ground up. Now, this is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles away. We're talking on the coast of Canada. Okay? The Atlantic Ocean, for God's sake. And then you build a wind farm. Listen to this. On the coast of Canada, practically on the Atlantic Ocean. And then you've got to build 700 miles of transmission lines through the Maritimes, Canada, through Maine, through New Hampshire, into Massachusetts to get that expensive electricity here. It's going to cost, now you know why electricity is so freaking expensive, okay? These are the kind of insane projects they're building. Instead of, here's what you could easily do now. Okay? Not go to Canada, build a wind farm, on the coast, hundreds of miles away, 700 miles of transmission lines. It's going through, Canada, Maine, New Hampshire. Okay, look, think of how expensive all this is. For, by the way, expensive, unreliable power. It's wind power. It's nothing, okay, to create electricity. So you're talking now about very expensive electricity. 100 miles away. 100 miles away, she could build a natural gas pipeline. A nice, beautiful natural gas pipeline from Pennsylvania right into Western Mass, my friend. Right into Western Mass. It's reliable. It's cheap. It can power our economy. It'll bring down utility costs, oil and natural gas costs. This is just an example, just one example, one project of how Healey's green socialism, her climate change agenda, is making your utilities, energy costs, and electricity unaffordable. You want to know why it's so expensive? This is why it's so expensive. One natural gas pipeline, just one, okay? One nice natural gas pipeline, 100 miles away. It's no problemo, baby. Straight into Western Massachusetts. No, that's too easy. That's too pro-middle class, too pro-working class. No. We got to pay top dollar to get a wind farm in freaking Nova Scotia. So there you go. You want to know why everything is becoming so unbelievably expensive? Why the middle class is being crushed? Here's just one example. Just one example. 617-266-6868. Ron in Holliston. Thanks for holding, Ron, and welcome.
Jeff.
Ron.
Good morning.
Good. How are you, Ron?
I'm okay. Yourself?
Good until I find out just how much more electricity is going to cost, because now whenever she leaves the state, I'm like, oh, no. How much is this going to cost us now? So, but anyway, Ron, look, we're building wind farms now in Nova Scotia, Ron, just so that you know. So anyway, there it is. Ron, go ahead, my friend.
I had that on my Christmas list. Hey, Jeff, it's time. This tax season, I don't know if you have enough lead time. I hope you do, but we should have another Beacon Hill rally with regards to the audit. Diane DeZoglio had an interview with Grace Curley, so maybe she's up to interacting with the other side. We could get Nick Shirley there. We can get all the three Massachusetts gubernatorial candidates, the Mass GOP. I think we need to put it together.
Well, look, Ron, I'm always game for a good rally, especially for a good cause on behalf of the taxpayers of Massachusetts. So, I'm with you. I'm definitely with you. Look, the Mass GOP, I wouldn't count on them. Those three candidates, I don't know. I don't know. I want to ask the audience, do you hear from them? Are they targeting you? Do you see them getting out there wanting your vote? I'm just curious. I see a few commercials here and there on TV, but outside of that, they don't seem to be very aggressively pursuing. And remember, they're still in the primary stage, right? There's not even general election yet. They got to win a primary. So you think they'd be going after Republican voters, conservative voters, Trump voters, independent voters. There's a press release here or there, and that's it. I honestly don't know what these people do all day. I'd love to know. So, but anyway, thank you for that, Ron, and we'll see. The problem now is it's like, Jeff, we should do a rally on this. We should do a rally for this. We should do a rally for that. This could become like a rally a week show, seriously, there's so many things. Jeff, let's rally against welfare fraud. Let's rally against the food stamp fraud. It's just, honestly, it's issue after issue after issue after issue. And if we just had an honest media, so much could be exposed, we wouldn't need to constantly be doing rally after rally after rally. Mel in Saratoga. Thanks for holding, Mel, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Mel.
Hi. I'm not sure if you remember Diane Carroll and James Earl Jones. Diane Carroll, she had her own show with Diane Carroll Show, and I think she was also secretary for on the series that came on every night, Mannix, for Joe Mannix. But they co-starred in a movie called Claudine. And the movie was about the new society, how Lyndon James Johnson, I'm in the car wash. What a moment. But anyway, when Johnson said, if we get these such and such, they're both on welfare, they'll vote for us for the next 200 years. But the movie is something that I think your audience ought to see, because it's very poignant, and it depicts what both black and white families, American families in this country, had all the hoops they had to jump through in order to get public assistance. Where the illegals, if you look at it today, it's like they get the red carpet rolled out. But
it is the red carpet. No, that's Mel. Look, you put your finger on it. You're right. You go back historically. Okay, it doesn't matter. Black, white, Latino. It doesn't matter. To get public assistance, you had to fill out application after application. You had to show photo ID. They had to make sure you were a U.S. citizen. They would means test you, as it used to be called. In other words, are you really poor? No, really, how poor are you? Do you really qualify for these benefits? Okay? Illegals today, it's the exact opposite. They're not just encouraged to come. The moment they land, the moment they arrive, they sign them up for welfare, knowing it's illegal. They put them up in hotels. Who's paying for that? We are. Who's giving them all these catered meals? We are. Who puts them on mass health? That's all Healey. That's all the Democrats. Who's lining them up on food stamps? It's Healey. It's the Democrats. Who's giving them these prepaid Visa cards? That's Healey. Who's giving them these ABT cards? That's Healey. So they're giving them knowingly, not just to non-citizens, okay, because non-citizens could be here on legitimate visas or green cards or whatever. No. They're giving them to illegal aliens. And now we're finding out it's not enough. The illegals don't just say thank you for paying for everything. No. They have to steal identity cards. They have to steal multiple SNAP and EBT cards. 617-266-6868. Sully in Brighton. Thanks for holding, Sully, and welcome.
Jeff, how you doing? Thanks for everything that you do, buddy.
Oh, my pleasure, Sully. What's on your mind, my friend?
Okay, I was all excited there a couple of weeks ago when I saw in the paper the auditor, she talked about she was going to audit the soldiers' homes. And I had lost my brother up at the soldiers' home 6 years ago to COVID. Over 30 veterans died up at that Chelsea soldiers' home. And all we ever heard about was Holyoke. 6 years later, families, no answers, no anything. And I knew they were going to play this game, the politicians, because my brother, I used to sit there with him, and he'd say to me, he lived up there for 10 years, and he'd say to me, hey, we're going to get a new soldiers' home here. I'm going to get my own room and everything like that there. Well, he never made it to see his own room and the new home and everything, because what happened was they played this game where, pay no attention to that person behind the curtain. Look what we did here. Well, look at this brand new soldiers' home that we have. But you know what? It doesn't solve the sins of the past. I'm not blaming the people that worked up there because they were good people. I'm blaming the people that were in charge because the place was run down, this was happening, that was happening. But this is what bothered me even more, though. A couple of years back, what happened was, now all those soldiers up there at the soldiers' home, they have to pay to be in there. They don't get it for free. And when they opened up the new soldiers' home, what did they do? They cleaned up the place where they were living in, and they brought in all the Haitians and everything because here we needed a place to put these people. And I'm telling two people, I'm telling Diane DeSlaglio, don't give up on it. And I'm asking the gubernatorial people on the Republican side, if you guys are really true veterans, then look at what happened to those 30 veterans and those families up there that lost loved ones. That's number 2. Number 3, I asked Leah Foley, go after and find out what happened up at that soldiers' home. Because when they put the Haitians in there, this organization that came in, they cleaned it up, they did this, they did that. It was called the La Collaborative. You know what? They did more for those people than they did for the guys that fought in World War II, Vietnam, Korea. God damn it, I'm pissed. I want this to go national. Because you know what, Mr. President? These were veterans, and they're left behind. And it's wrong, just wrong.
It's a betrayal. It's more than wrong. By the way, very powerful, very eloquent, Sully, and very well said on your part. Charlie Baker has blood on his hands. I said it at the time. I'm going to say it again. He was responsible. He opened up those homes. They brought in COVID-infected people willingly, knowingly. It led to a massacre, like what happened up in New York with Andrew Cuomo. Same thing. Baker did the exact same thing at Holyoke. To me, he needs to be held accountable for what he did. That was mass murder. I'm sorry. And you're right. There needs to be a thorough investigation. And what makes my blood boil, really makes my blood boil, is that they will bring in illegal aliens, foreign nationals, clean the place up for them like they never did for those poor soldiers, okay, who put their lives on the line for this country. And they gave them free meals, a free stay, free computers, free everything, while our soldiers had to pay through the nose. And then they're killed off and nobody gives a damn because it's all about the illegals and making sure that they have a roof over their head. Well, what about the soldiers? Nobody cared about them. And when they were betrayed by our own government and were left there to die, many of them alone, no help whatsoever, none. They just left them in the corner to die. And now who speaks for them? Nobody. Nobody. And that to me is a symptom of everything that's wrong with this government, everything that's wrong with this state, everything that's wrong, honestly, with Massachusetts. So you're completely right, Sully. I hope Diana DiZoglio does that audit. I hope she breaks the lid on, opens the lid on that, breaks it wide open. And I hope for once the media in this state will do their job and hold people in power accountable. And it's not just Healey. I said it before, Sully, if you remember. I don't know how long you've been listening to the Kuhner man. When we had Baker as governor, I said he was the worst governor in the history of Massachusetts. I said the guy should be tried for crimes against humanity for what he did. He locked down schools. He locked down churches. How many small businesses this man destroyed? Okay. The greatest violation of civil rights in the history of Massachusetts was by that clown, Charlie Parker. Okay. Chicken Charlie. I never thought anybody could be worse. Healey's even worse. If you can believe it, even worse. So to me, I don't care. The establishment Republicans, the establishment Democrats, both of them have betrayed us. And Sully, it's time we get a reckoning. It's time we get justice. Justice for those who died at Holyoke. Sully, God bless you and keep up the fight, my friend. Stan in Lynn. Stan, I've got less than a minute. Go.
Can you hold on?
Stan?
Yeah, I'm calling from Lynn here. They got to get some kind of a whistleblower incentive because a lot of people pissed off in this community that know all these illegals that are getting all this stuff, and they do nothing. And give them an incentive, offer them $1,000.
Well, look, Stan, and I'm sorry we don't have more time. Look, where's the Attorney General?